Okay, we'll go through our typical slides I've got here, talk about a few things we've got going on, and then kind of turn the time over to you guys to talk about or bring up or share anything you guys would like. So let me show you guys see that okay? Yes? Okay. So just really quick, just as far as games go, just kind of the trend we've been on. December had 589. January, with everything that's in the system through obviously next week, 706 games. That's a huge number. Obviously, that includes about 135 games from Grizz Cup. So big thanks to everybody that worked games for that. Went relatively well. Had a few COVID issues. Had a no-show issue, but everybody stepped in and we were able to, like I say, I think 2 games, maybe a game and a half went without full officials. So overall, not bad. So far for next month, February, you can see it's going to kind of start to taper off. There's still a couple of leagues, couple of adult leagues I know for sure that I don't have schedules for. So February would probably still be pushing that 500-ish games range, I would say, by the time it's all said and done. So as far as games, we're still holding strong. You guys see up here at the top, we had 116 officials. That went up by, I think, 5 or 6 officials from last month. That's continually, since the start of the season, gone from below 100 up to 116. So we've got more people working, 11 scorekeepers. Average games of those 127 people is 12. And the median in there is 8, so you can kind of see where you fall based on how many games you may have worked. Carson again, 7-night-a-week guy up there at 72, and Fulner, Wilner, Brown, and Sarah Weber. So just some quick numbers there. Stuff coming up. Obviously, we're starting to get into playoff season. I was on the high school call a few weeks ago. They've actually added a third division just for playoffs. So I don't know if you guys are aware with how high school does it. They have a Division 1 and a Division 2 right now for regular season. So as always, they will have an affiliate and an independent championship for their Division 1. And then they've taken Division 2 and actually split it into 2 different divisions. So you guys that are working high school, you'll see on your schedule, you'll see if there aren't team names, it'll say D2 or D3, and that's where the D3 comes in. They've actually added a third. It's still the same amount of games because all those teams would have been playing games in D2 anyway. It just kind of breaks it up. So for us, good, I guess, more competitive games. And maybe not those huge blowouts, in those first couple of rounds. So should be better for everyone involved. We got state playoffs for tiers coming up, 14, 16s. I don't have the exact dates on those, and they're not on the schedule yet. But we'll communicate that out once we get them, and then should be in the last few weeks of regular season for adult leagues, and then we'll be getting into playoffs end of February, first part of March, I guess, and then most of them finish up by the end of March, first part of April. So
yeah, I know Billiter starts the last week, like the 27th
of February.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah, I do have that schedule.
Tier 2 youth playoffs are March 3rd through the 6th.
Okay. So those are coming up. Be a good time. You guys that have been, getting your bands and 3-man systems and stuff like that. Tim Tate will be scheduling most of those as they have to do with USA Hockey Nationals. But he'll obviously discuss with myself and like probably Davies and Bob, the schedulers who we've been using, and the board, and who we want to give opportunities to work those. So.
Are those going to be 3-man then? Because I've done 2, 3, and 4-man with all those, depending on the games.
I want to say they're going to be 4-man, but I haven't been given the information. Casper, you seem to have a lot of information. Do you know, are they going to all be 4-man?
I'm assuming we've always, like the last couple of years, we've done 4-man.
Right.
I haven't heard the system, but I mean, they do 4-man at nationals, so I don't see why we wouldn't do 4-man.
Yeah, and when we made the announcement to start the year, it was 2-man for regular season and then 4 in playoffs.
Well, for high school,
right.
Yeah, for high school, they're going to go 2. They're going 2 actually all the way through until the championship games. They were going to do semifinals and finals at 4-man for high school, but they're just doing finals this year. As far as state playoffs, it's usually like if there's 2 teams, they'll have like a best out of 3 game series or whatever. I'm pretty sure all those games will be 4-man.
Yeah, they should be.
Round robin if there's 3 type deal. So just kind of things to look forward to as we kind of come to a close. I just wanted to touch on Horizon. Davies isn't able to be on the call tonight, but I was texting back and forth and been talking with him and Bob. With the new system, we're definitely running into quite a few scheduling hiccups, right? And we knew this was going to be the case, moving to a new system. Completely flip-flop from Horizon, right? With where you're always showing available in Arbiter, and so you could kind of find guys easier, right? With Horizon and having to go in and actually open up your schedule, we thought, well, hey, that'll cut down on the declines quite a bit because people are actually having to go in and physically open their schedule to work. Well, as you can see, I went through just this month, we've had 182 games declined by officials. That's not like set, that's like actual games. So if you sent someone a set of 3 games and they declined all 3, right? That's not just 1, that's 3. So that's total games. And that's just like, it's putting a huge strain on the schedulers to try and get the right guys on the right games. When we go through and schedule, like most of the time I'll pull up like one day, a Saturday, right, for my rinks and see, you know, who's close, who's available, which guys are available, and which guys are the best fit for those games, right? And so if you're showing available and we're getting so many declines, it just kind of is a ripple effect all the way backwards trying to get things scheduled out. So please, 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 and keep it up like 3 to 4 weeks out. So as we go to schedule in that 2 to 3 week out time frame, if you are available, you're showing available, like I say, because you're always blocked unless you go in and update. Was kind of the main thing that me and Mike discussed today. The declines, we got to, I know in a few years back, we used to fine people $5 for declining games. We don't want to go back to that system. But we got to get declines under control, so we can make scheduling a lot simpler process. I know I've sent out a few emails as far as adult leagues go. We have a lot of officials working games. I would say we have a lot of new younger officials are a lot of that number. We do have some new adult officials, but adult leagues, especially on Sundays, I know there are issues out there. We're trying to address them, and I know we've lost a few people that don't want to work on Sundays anymore. It's obviously completely up to you. We totally understand. If you are willing to help out, please, please, please reach out or have your schedule reflect that you are, even if it's if you can help with 1 Sunday a month, if every adult official were to cover 1 Sunday, 2 games, 1 Sunday a month, we'd be in pretty good shape. So, and then as far as the payment center goes, we're still planning on, with games you work in January, paying by the 15th of February. hopefully. It's a new system for all of us as well that are doing checks and verifying games and all those things. Please have your payment center. I know there's been plenty of issues. I've talked to quite a few people on the phone. Most of them have been able to figure it out by going to the Get Help section on Horizon or actually contacting their bank. Other people have said they put their information right in and it's gone right through. So let's see. I'll stop there. I see there's some chat stuff. I don't have that pulled up. All right, we can decline games. All right, good. So questions on Horizon before we go any further. I want to give you guys, any time to ask questions or sorry, this is what I get to see. As you see, we can go in here like on our game calendars, right? An availability overview, and it actually pulls up every single person. So as you can see, so red, this is February. So these are like when I send out the email saying, hey, please update your availability. Everyone that's in red are just people that have, right, just are not showing available ever, right? So that's half of our association. Just really quick scrolling down through here. Sorry, go ahead. Someone have a question? No? Okay, so like I say, just a few things to think about going through Horizon. If you don't have any questions on that, we'll keep going, but just a few things looking for everybody to help us out with. Good. Okay, actually spoke with Mr. Casper a little bit about this a week or so ago, and I noticed it, a lot of guys work in Grizz Cup, right, with the 16, every age division using automatic offsides. I think there's a bunch of us that are misinterpreting the rule a little bit as far as face-off locations when you're blowing down the automatic offsides, right? So it goes back to last play, okay? So as you can see in this diagram, right, if they're just skating the puck over the ice or over the blue line, the face-off's going to go to one of those dots because the last play is right there at the blue line. The biggest thing I probably saw misinterpreted and miscalled in the tournament and the games I was watching and the game before I was working are the plays where you guys can see my mouse on this screenshot, correct? Moving. If the player is behind the dot anywhere, like it's only 2-3 feet between the blue line and the dot there. So if he's in front of the red line but behind the dot and shoots it in, that face-off needs to go to center ice every single time. I saw probably 80% of the ones that were shooting the puck in from back there in that kind of gray area between the dots, they were just going straight to the dot instead of coming back to center ice. You can't give a territorial advantage on the offsides, right? Same with if they're behind the red line and shoot it in offsides, it's coming back to the far dot. And even back if it's a long stretch pass and it's offsides, like the pass comes from their defensive zone. In these upper levels, honestly, probably 3/4 of the offsides that are shot in are almost going to be center ice faceoffs. I think in the 2 games I did, I probably had 8 or 10 faceoffs at center ice on faceoffs, on offsides. Sorry. And then the last point I want to make on this before I open up for questions or comments is intentional offsides in this situation, right? Like, especially at the 14, 16, even most 12, right? Like they've been taught to pull the puck back and regroup rather than just fire it back in. Like we need to just think here, did he know, if you in your mind think, did he know that his players were still offsides? Then the faceoff needs to go all the way down. Like you're gonna get an earful from coaches, but we have to, these 14, 16s, they know their guys are still offsides and are just dumping the puck back in the zone. At that point, take it down a couple of times. They might think about throwing it back in, if you call automatic offsides on them a few times. So any questions on face-off locations for automatic offsides or comments? Casper, did I cover everything you were thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think like the big thing when it comes to intentional offsides with the new rule was the player trying to make a play, or was he panicking and throwing the puck back in the zone to prevent a turnover? Right? Like, so the defenseman gets the puck on the blue line. He stumbles or he messes up with it. It goes in the neutral zone. There's a guy forechecking him, and all he does is take the puck and throws it back inside the zone. Right? That's intentional offsides. Should go all the way down. Another thing is if the guy is skating over and he goes to dump it, and there's 3 players that are like top of the circles, hash marks, right? That's intentional offsides. The guy's not trying to make a play there. Now, if the guys are trying to come out and he's trying to dump at the same time as like they're at the blue line, trying to make a play, that's a completely different story, right? Like, just they're trying to time it. He's trying to make a play. It was offsides, it was a mistake, it happened, but it wasn't intentional because he was trying to make a good play. So
I have a question not about intentional offsides, but similar to shots on net at like the blue line. So like if a player is like taking a slap shot and it's like coming across the blue line and he's just trying to keep it in, right? And it goes on net. Would you mark that at the offside faceoff dot, or would you put that all the way down because it is technically a shot on goal while offsides?
what's the rule, Carson? Do you know?
I think it's supposed to go all the way down, technically.
Well, I think in that situation you need to use like how you were describing it was like the puck was kind of coming out and he was really close to holding it in and it was barely offsides. Well, at that point, it doesn't really matter if it goes on net or not, because with the automatic offsides, it's offsides as soon as the puck's out and comes back in.
Okay.
So the shot on net there is kind of
Nullified.
That rule essentially, the on net thing is kind of gone with the intentional or the automatic offsides, because if there's people offsides, as soon as that puck crosses the blue line, it doesn't really matter what happens after that, right? On net or not on net, it's offsides.
That I agree with.
But in that case, yeah, so in that case in high school, the whistle is, if the puck is on net, you are going to blow it down automatically, like as soon as it's on net. But it doesn't necessarily have to be intentional. If, like, say he's got a guy coming out of the zone full steam and he's coming in and he's kind of winding up and the guy just barely doesn't get out in time for him putting it on net. In that situation, I would not take it all the way down. I don't think the guy was literally trying to make a play, right?
It goes back to what we were just talking about, even with youth hockey. What's the intent, right? Is he trying to make a play, or is he getting pressured and all he's doing is dumping it on net to cause an offsides, right? Or is he panicking and throwing it on net? So in high school hockey, it's almost the same as with youth hockey with the intentional offsides. What's the play there, right? What's the intent?
So yeah, so good question though, Carson. Good discussion. The one I want everyone.
One thing on that, Andy, that we sometimes forget: if the puck's going high, like and the goalie reaches up and catches it, or it's going wide, that's not right. It's on net.
It has to be
So
on
just
net.
because a goalie comes out and makes a save or reaches above,
Touches it.
it's on net.
Right, even if it hits the post, it's not on that.
Yep. So and like I say, the main thing I want, especially in the lower levels, the mites and squirts, peewees, where they're kind of just floating around out here in the neutral zone and it comes out and they shoot it back in. If that player shooting it back in is not just barely outside of the blue line in front of the dots right here, you're probably going to have quite a few face-offs at center ice. And I think most of the calls, most of the ones I saw, everybody was just taking it to the dot every time, no matter where the shot was coming from. So we need to make sure that that territorial advantage isn't given on an offside. Anything else on that one? Okay, I have a few videos that I don't mind sharing just for discussion, but I just want to open up the time to any of you guys. If any of you guys have videos or comments or anything that happened in games with Grizz Cup or anything like that, you guys want to talk about, any questions for us, anything like that, fire away. Come on. Petey, you awake?
If you're talking, you might have to unmute your phone because everyone's muted.
No, I'm happy with it. We're having these discussions moving into the playoffs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'll bring something up about Grizz Cup. I know a lot of the refs were kind of talking about it, and Andy, maybe you can give some context to it. With the scheduling for Grizz Cup, and I'm sure you've already heard this, and the amount that we got, I know there were a lot of refs saying we could have done a lot more games. I did hear from some coaches that said some of the officials that were brought in were not as good as the Utah officials. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it was just commentary. Going into next year in the My Hockey, what's the sentiment on what we can support, commit to along those lines? Because again, a lot of refs were like, I thought I was going to do, 4 a day, 6 a day, whatever Carson 700 a day, whatever it ends up being. Just some context around it, because that's kind of the elephant in the room.
No, James, honestly, that's a great question, and I don't have a problem answering it. This goes back, I've been in contact with those Grizz Cup guys ever since I was kind of thrown to the fire, late summer. They threw out, hey, it's going to be 275 games. What are you guys comfortable with? This was kind of before we had seminars. We're still in a pandemic. Who's going to work? There's a lot of different factors. 100% you can put it on me, the number of teams that they brought in, the number of people they brought in. I worked that out with them with some discussion from guys on the board, but I'll take 100% accountability for that. We came up with 14 guys, and we now know, I did hear, I've talked to a few of you, I've talked to Mike, I've talked to everybody about number of games. So moving forward, it's 100% up to us, right? Like how many people they bring in. So next year, what is that number? And we'll revisit it, right, when it comes. Does it need to be 14? Obviously, it does not. Now, I will say we had 2 or 3 COVID late. We were scrambling to find guys for games. So I know there was a little bit of that. And but at the same time, like I say, we don't want to be, we don't want guys working 6 or 8 games a day, probably mentally as much as physically maybe. Some guys probably can do 6 or 8 a day, but we would rather have, I don't know, it's a fine line, right, James? Like, maybe the
We
number
also-
was 10 guys and not 14 guys. Maybe it was 10, and maybe next year it'll be 6 guys or 8 guys we need to bring in, depending on what our numbers look like. But that wasn't like us getting screwed over by My Hockey. Those were conversations we had to ensure that we could cover games with a little bit of cushion for cancellations and schedule changes and all of that kind of stuff. So, go ahead, Petey, if you were going to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say the other factor that we had was My Hockey had a couple teams drop out right before the tournament due to COVID, right?
We did.
And their initial estimates when we're putting this stuff together in July and August and trying to figure that out, it can change by about 20 games or so. And so we, Andy does and has been doing an incredible job trying to make sure that our officials are taken care of, like making sure our pay is much better for these tournament games. And I think it's really shown that guys are willing to work when we start taking care of them, and we've got the number of guys willing to work. And I just want to say hats off to Andy for facilitating all of this.
And Andy, I was going to jump in, something else just to add to that, James. Andy kind of touched on this, was when we found out how many games were initially expected for Grizz Cup, the numbers that we had within the association was down tremendously. And so we had an initial panic, and the seminars proved to be much more successful than what we had anticipated. And the best example I can give you is here in Logan. I ended up picking up 8 new officials this year, where on top of the 3 that I already had. So I went from having 4 officials to 11. And I think, Andy, there were 3 of them that worked Grizz Cup games. And normally I'm the only one that comes down to Logan. Or comes down from Logan to work Grizz Cup. So we ended up with a lot more officials after seminars than we were expecting. So that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into the situation as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the context, and I figured this is all a bunch of variables that everybody doesn't understand, that this is a fluid situation, and so this is great context, and maybe I don't know if we have communication on it, but just to give people some general context, because I don't think everybody knows what it takes to put something like this on. So I really appreciate the context around the whole situation and what it takes to put it all together.
No, for sure, James. And honestly, that like a question just like that is exactly why we do these meetings. Like, we want to give all of our officials a platform to come on and ask questions, and we're out in the open and give honest answers. Next year, absolutely. We now know if we hold our numbers where we're at, in a perfect world, we cover 275 games by ourselves. Could we have covered 275 this year? Absolutely not. Could we have covered 180? Maybe. But like I say, at the time that here's your schedule, what do you want us to do, right? And then it takes those guys a couple months to find teams of people to come in to work too. So it was a long process up to the point where I changed the schedule, I think 3 times the week leading up to the tournament. So, but I'm more than happy to provide context on any of that or any questions like that. That's perfect. So thank you, James. Anyone else? Other questions? Anything? Horizon? Scheduling? Anybody want 4 adult league games this Sunday?
I hear Matt's not busy.
Yeah, right?
Carson's open, I heard too. So don't
No,
forget to
I've already
schedule
got my
him.
4. I've
I was
got
gonna
my
say,
4.
I'm
Where's your
sure
4?
he's already on there.
I think Carson is good enough. He could do 4 simultaneously at 2 different rinks, couldn't he?
James, if it's in the TBA request, it's because I'm not available. Okay.
Yeah.
You just better be on
No.
Thursday, Carson. That's all I gotta say. Just be on Thursday.
Like that's a great thing to bring up too, Carson. I'm actually glad you said TBA because I want to just kind of touch on that really quick. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? With the TBA, we don't want to just throw our whole schedule out on TBA and then have 5 or 6 guys all want one set, and then you can only give it to 2, and then people are upset. TBA is kind of, if something goes out on TBA, all resources really have been or should have been exhausted, right? Like there are games, we have 6 or 8 men's league games this Sunday that still are not covered. And when you go in to click on to assign officials, there's 10 or 12 people that actually pop up as available, and 2 of them are scorekeepers and the other 10 are youth officials. So there's literally 0 people showing available to work those games. Some of that is because people don't want to work that league. Some people don't want to work on Sundays, period. Some people still haven't updated their schedules. I would say probably not in this case because those are still in January. The issue, I guess, more is like when the month switches over and people haven't gone into the next month to adjust their availability. But also know that we understand the issues and the problems with finding officials for adult leagues, and we're doing a ton of work behind the scenes that hopefully will make it more manageable or more worth your time. Coming up, that's to be announced, but just know that we are aware of the issues. I have weekly conversations with leagues and coaches and a lot of you, honestly, on the phone about issues and things that you guys are running into in the rinks. And I take those to the leagues. I'm here for you guys. I'm like support you guys 100%. If you have an issue and something needs to be talked about with a league or a coach or whatever, just know that those conversations are being had and we're working on things to get things better for everybody. So, but going back to TBA, if it's out there and you can help at all, please, please, please help us out, because we've had more games go with one official or no officials this season and probably ever, honestly. Like as long as I've been scheduling, once or twice a year I had a game go with one official. I've probably had 30 games myself at 3 rinks go with one official, and probably a handful go with where I had to email them and tell them they weren't going to have anybody. So
Let's see those videos.
Yep. All right. These videos were sent to me, and I appreciate it. If you ever have videos you want covered and you kind of don't want to present yourself, totally understandable, send them to me, and I'd be more than happy to share them. So these are actually let me share my screen, out of some college games from this past weekend. I'd like to discuss these more on a USA Hockey penalty structure level rather than a college level, just because I think it's more beneficial for more people in our association. So we can just pull these up, and there's not too many of us on here, so just go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself. And let's see here.
Around behind the net.
All right, so this first one, it comes quick. It's going to be right over on the board. You guys see my screen? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? All right.
Yep.
So
It's in the corner, correct?
It's going to come up the boards up here where my mouse is. It's going to be up here to your right, on the right of your screen.
Around behind the net. Try to trickle it back up. Zach Bohm, it back around behind the net. Try to trickle it back.
I've got my thoughts.
I'll start with this one. Whether this is college, juniors, or USA Hockey, I've got a penalty here myself. But what do you guys think?
Around behind the net. Try to trickle it back up.
This is a
First off,
multiple
the puck's
choice
on the red
answer.
line. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I say there's a multiple choice here for penalty options.
Okay, so like I say, let's not think of this as a college game. Let's think as like a 16U travel
Around behind
game.
the net. Try to trickle it back.
Okay, so minor for roughing. Anybody got a minor for a roughing?
Yeah, it's hard to see the puck, but it looks like the puck was gone quite a bit before contact was made there. It's hard to tell. It's a little blurry.
Did that player
Yeah.
ever have possession of the puck?
Around behind the net.
Okay, so puck's up the boards. I'll kind of slow it down. He just reaches out and barely taps the puck, right? And the puck went up the boards up this way, so it's gone out of the screen already.
Trickle it. Around behind the net. Try to trickle it back.
First thing I'm looking at here, and if this is a high school game or something, is where's the guy's hands? Where's his stick? Okay.
From here, I thought I had head contact. I mean, it looked like the hands
Yeah.
are right at the chin of the cage.
Yeah, just depending on your angle here. Yeah, for sure. Hands are up, maybe upper chest, maybe chin area. I could even charge here. Watch how far this guy accelerates through this guy.
Around behind the net. Try to trickle it back up. Zach Bohm, it bounces up.
So I would imagine everyone's on the same page. It's at least a 2 and a 10 for USA Hockey standard, whether that's charging or a head contact. Is it game worthy? Was there reckless intent there?
In my opinion, the only thing he's trying to do there is just destroy that kid, right?
Yeah, if you're talking USA Hockey, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is obviously a college game. Like I say, I still have a penalty. It might only be a minor in this game, but
Okay, but let's
maybe
finish.
more.
Let's finish. Can we finish the
Yeah, go
USA
ahead.
Hockey and then we can say college, but USA Hockey is so both Andy and Matt, you're saying that this is reckless intent and you would go 5 in a game,
Absolutely.
whether that's charging or
Yeah,
head contact.
I
Yeah,
would hear you.
100%.
Does anybody
anyone
else have a
disagree?
different opinion? I have a hard time calling a 5 in a game on that because that's just me struggling to adapt to the new rules. But I would 100% support Andy or Matt with going 5 in a game there. Personally, knowing my standard, I would probably see it as a 2 and a 10 for a head contact or a charge. And I would sell it for the charge because the guy leaves his feet making contact.
Around behind the net. Try to trickle it back up. Zach Bohm, it bounces over his stick when it.
All right. Let's go to the next one.
Blew the in play or whatever.
Okay, so this one's going to happen right here, just down inside the circle here.
On the linesman, but they're just going to reset. Try that again. Shimbashi tries to push through it, ends up coming back. The
fan's got a penalty right here. I don't know if you guys saw it. He's got it.
The fans always do. They're the best.
Blew the in play or whatever on the linesman, but they're just going to reset. Try that again.
What do you
USA
guys have
Hockey
there?
or call we're USA Hockey, right?
We're sticking with
We're going to
USA
do this
Hockey.
all USA Hockey. Yeah, it's just more beneficial for our association to talk USA Hockey Standard.
Hey, besides you and Craig talking, we should get some other people on this call to respond.
Okay, Jim, you're up.
Nope. People that we haven't heard from. Everyone unmute their phone and talk.
Tyler, you got anything? What do you got on that, Tyler?
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm in a back room at Topgolf. Is it too noisy?
No, you're good.
Good. Okay, so the hardest thing for me with something like this is gauging if the player falls, does that make it a penalty or not? Or being the fact that his stick comes clear up over his head and then down. And so, I mean, I wouldn't throw an interference at all by any means because if he stood on his feet, but because he throws him down, that's where I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'd probably, because it was a windmill stick clear up over the head and throw down, would call a roughing USA Hockey if I saw it in high school.
Blew the in play or whatever on the linesman, but they're just going to reset. Try that again.
Okay. Carson, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see Tyler's point there. You know, are they both engaging in it? And I think they are. But yeah, I mean, definitely 12 could definitely be having a, I would call it roughing at most.
Okay, so one comment I'll make here. I think you have a penalty here for sure. For the simple fact that one, you don't have to make contact with the high stick, right? And I wouldn't call roughing here myself. I would call a high stick, right? It's more descriptive in my opinion than calling a roughing here. If you're gonna tomahawk, whip your stick above up in a guy's face area, I would go more with the high stick here.
Blew the in play or whatever on the linesman, but they're just going to reset. Try that again. Shibashi.
Right, it's hard to tell. Does he make? It doesn't look like he makes a ton of contact with that player. Like if he contacts the head with the stick there, you could have something a little more major, right?
Hey, Andy.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that video, and I know it's grainy, it's hard to see, but when you keep overplaying it and they're both together, I see both their sticks come up at the same time, and the other player gets the worst of it. I see it almost simultaneously from the video, watching it over and over again, that they're both doing the exact same thing at the same time.
Oh, that's fair. And guess what? If you're reffing this game, you can sell that to the coaches. Like if that's what you have, that's what you see, just sell it, just own it, right? Which is half the battle reffing hockey anyway, right? You got to own your call and sell it. And if you're confident in it, then go with it, right?
Blew the in
There's
play
one
or
more.
whatever on the linesman, but they're just going to reset. Try that again. Shibashi tries to.
Anybody else have a comment on that one? All right. Let's move on then.
Eisenstadt back over to BYU. Back to Eisenstadt, who tries a shot.
Okay, so this one
Eisenstadt.
kind of out of the, it's going to happen all the way on the far right hand of your screen. Just two players battle in front of the net. Pick it up just barely on the right side.
Back over to BYU. Back to Eisenstadt, who tries a shot. Ends up go.
Wow.
What you got, G?
I've got an easy interference call.
Back over to BYU. Back to Eisenstadt, who tries a shot. Ends up.
No play in the puck, just dumps the guy in front of the net.
Is that interference or tripping or a slew foot?
Interference. He just pushes him down.
Petey loves the slew foot.
I've never called a slew foot.
I'm just
Back
kidding.
over to BYU.
One more look.
Back to Eisenstadt,
There he is.
who tries a shot. Ends up.
They always say you don't. that's taking it a little far, as when the rule book says about not penalizing a player for being stronger and faster. I would say that goes just a little bit over that line, in my opinion. All right, there are a couple left just in this folder here. Okay, so this one, the player, it'll happen right here in the middle. Just watch the guy skating up with the puck and the contact made and see what you think.
And only
Match
30
penalty.
seconds left for the Aggies work. Power play, upended, no penalty, and a good. And only 30 seconds left for the Aggies work. Power play, upended, no penalty.
The announcer's
And only
not
30
happy.
seconds left for the Aggies work.
That
Power
announcer
play.
sucks.
I think he's a swell guy, and we should focus on the USA Hockey Standard here.
Okay,
Wow, Peter Peterson.
right? Who haven't we called on? Everyone's all small in my screen. Who hasn't?
I'll
Eric?
chime in, Andy. Yeah, I'll chime
Oh, go
in.
ahead.
So I have a trip on that. If you watch his right foot, it looks like it gets a little bit extended behind his body right before he goes down. And so it looks to me like it was caused by the guy's stick. So I would have a trip there.
Okay.
Is it a stick stuck out, or is it a leg or a knee?
It looks foot to foot to me. And I was actually on the ice for this game. So
Oh, so you didn't make the call.
No, he was
no,
a
I
lineman.
was the linesman screwing everything up this game.
Oh, JFL.
JFL.
30 seconds left for the Aggies work. Power play, upended, no penalty.
It's hard
One
to
more
see.
here.
What
It is
what
hard.
does his right foot do?
For the
See, that's the part that I have a problem with.
What, that his foot tripped his foot?
He's sticking that leg out.
It's not the I don't even care about the leg. It's the direction of the toe. Because to
Whose
make a
toe? The
hockey
puck
turn,
carrier or
your
the-
foot doesn't go in the air. Tell me the last time you did a power turn and your foot went in the air. Your toe pointed straight up in the air. What kind of power turn is that?
Are you
I
saying
just
this
got-
should be a penalty, PD, or it should not be a penalty?
It should be a penalty.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
That's a signature roller hockey turn right there. Toe in the air.
It's a trip with embellishment.
Well, there's no
Oh,
embellishment in USA
okay.
Hockey.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm just being
right?
funny.
All right, last look, and then we'll
Here's
move
the
on.
other hard part, right?
left for the
Oh, there you go. That's a good pause motion. Looks like he might be extending the leg just a little bit there. Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I mean, just the angles of the ref, wherever the refs are. I'm not saying where they are, but it's hard to tell them this,
So
right?
the ref is actually right here to the right, just behind this player you can see on the boards.
Okay.
Mr. Gearloff right there, I believe.
That would be yours truly right there.
And then there's a ref here, back here in the corner, directly behind. So he's actually looking through the Utah State player in this case.
Right.
And then the other officials obviously up in the neutral zone. Up here, which maybe had a better angle, I don't know, depending on players. But this was also, they were already on a power play. And I believe in this situation, the other referee was still down by me around the blue line-ish, far end of the ice. So the angles might not have been great. Since we don't know who the refs were, they did not call it. BYU was shorthanded already at this point, which shouldn't really matter, right? But I know that comes into play sometimes. To me, he's sticking his foot out, and it probably should be a tripping. But we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Aggies work. Power play, upended, no penalty.
And the last one.
Another shot from point blank range and wide of the net. No, a big check up high. No penalty coming.
That announcer's great. I might just listen to those games.
Oh,
No, you don't want to torture yourself. Trust me.
He even called his own guy out for a high hit.
Another shot from point blank range and wide of the net. No, a big.
Or is this BYU?
That's a Utah State player, and he's calling out any of the penalty. What's the penalty?
Up high. No penalty.
All right, so USA Hockey, that happens. What are you calling? Dylan, what do you got, buddy?
Well, to me, I would think maybe like a check from behind or cross check.
Okay, where's this guy's initial contact on this guy? Where does he hit him first?
Right on the.
See, I tried to
Like
stop
right
that.
on the name tag, I would think. I think like right on the name tag.
Another shot from point blank range and wide.
I still didn't stop it. To me, it looks
Can you
like
just
he
move
hit
the
him right
slider,
in the
Andy?
face. What's that?
Can you move the slide? Can you move the slider
Yeah.
instead of?
Right
They're
there.
face to face there, aren't they?
Okay, that's
They're
a better
literally
view.
face to face right there.
Yeah, from where my Wi-Fi is at, it's like a bad connection, so I can't really see it.
Yeah. No, you're good. It's hard, right? Live, and especially if you're looking on a smaller phone.
Yeah. So a check.
But even after the initial contact, look what he right. He like doubles down, right? Grabs the guy's head. Live, I mean, I guess you could possibly think head contact initially as it happened so fast. Looks like more of like a face-to-face when you slow it down, but those things are hard to see.
PD might call that in a squirt game.
Targeting.
Targeting. Yeah, right. Like these are the things too, right? Like we all can officiate a perfect game by watching a video and slowing it down. And I mean, live, like, right? That's, I think, what a lot of
check up high.
A lot of
But
people.
Andy, can you?
Go
Andy,
ahead.
go back because there's something good here too. Like, try to get it to that same spot. Maybe you might have to use the slider, but right there.
Back.
Well, okay, that's different because go forward just a little.
That's BYU stick.
I know, right? You can kind of go right there. I was thinking when you had it paused before, the BYU defensive player was kind of in the line of the referee, but this way the referee has clear sight of it, right? I was thinking maybe, like, I was just going to talk about sometimes we have to move our feet to get in better sight lines, but this is a straight view of it. It's just when you paused it before, the BYU player was right in the sight line. So
Right. Nope, for sure. It's all, that's, 90% of it, right? You get a lot of these videos that are in the middle of the ice, 15 or 20 rows up, and it's always a good view from that video, right? You just have to take into consideration where the referee is, or both, in this case, two referees, but anyway, so that's all the videos. Just nice to have discussion and see what everybody thinks and what everybody sees and what you're looking at when you're looking at certain things. So other than that, that's everything that I had to cover tonight. So I'm willing to stay on and answer any questions, or if you guys have anything else for us.
Hey, Andy,
Andy.
Just one comment that I have.
Yeah.
I want to
Is there?
thank two guys. Yeah, I want to thank two guys that I've recently worked with. Carson, that we were doing a game, and he, in the middle of the game, said, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he said, "Well, you're flat back and the board's too much. Point your toes at the puck more." And it was just a great reminder, because subconsciously, I didn't even realize I was doing that. And I know that mechanic, but I wasn't doing it. And I was glad he pointed it out to me. And then did a game with Casper, and just the post game talking about the things that happened in the game. I just learned a lot, and it was just really good feedback. So I appreciate that mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's twofold, right? Like guys that are willing to take that coaching and not like be offended about it, right? Like everyone just wants everybody to be the best that they can be out there. And if you're open to communication and things, constructive criticism, that'll just help you get that much better, that much quicker. So great comment,
Absolutely.
Eric. Thank you.
Yeah. I know I still ask for feedback every time I work from the guys I'm working with. So something to keep in mind.
Well, for sure. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi. This is Sam Steinman. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, how's it going, Sam?
Good, thank you. Hey, I just wanted to say
Just to
hi,
put a
everyone.
face to a name, finally.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm a new official and new to Utah, and did a bunch of games in January, probably most of them with Carson and Sarah, but just wanted to say I appreciate the opportunity to get engaged out here. And I'm going back to Virginia for a few months, but I should be back in the summer for good here. I did have a quick question. I was doing I think it was a U16 game, and it was interesting. Someone was brought up slew footing earlier, and I was tempted to call it, but I didn't. There were two guys jockeying in the crease for position, and one guy used his foot to take the other guy's leg out, but the guy didn't fall, so I didn't call it. And I went back afterwards and read the rule book, and I think it defines the penalty as kicking out the leg while at the same time pushing on the chest. And in this case, the guy wasn't pushing on the chest, he just used his foot. But then later in the case book, it sort of implies that you could call it even if they don't push the chest at the same time. And since the guy didn't fall and didn't really come close to falling, I think I was okay not calling it. But I'd be curious on any guidance on when you guys call that penalty, because it's a pretty big one.
I got this one, Andy.
Yeah, I know Petey loves the slew footing, so you can have it.
So Sam, this is one of my biggest pet peeves when I referee, is you hear players and coaches and all, parents, they're all screaming slew foot, slew foot, slew foot. And most of the time it's not a slew foot. Slew foots are very dangerous, but most of the time you're not seeing it. It truly is that kicking the feet out from under them and slamming them. It basically leaves the player completely vulnerable to, all sorts of injuries, hitting their head and back, all that stuff. When you see guys getting tripped and their legs coming out, especially on the boards, like guys, oftentimes they'll call for a slew foot when there's a battle in the corner, right? Just because a guy's legs get tangled up or he slides his foot as he's turning or whatever, and he trips up the other guy, that does not mean it's a slew foot. You can call a tripping penalty, but the player still is able to control somewhat of their fall. Like their upper body is not constrained, and they're not physically being thrown down to the ice. And that's where that slew foot is, like, you'll know when it's a slew foot. It's one of those like, oh crap, that just happened. And like I promise, when you see a slew foot, it'll be there.
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. That makes sense. Appreciate that. Yeah, in this case, I mean, the guy definitely used his foot intentionally to take the other guy's legs out, but there wasn't the same counter motion to slam him down, and the guy didn't fall. So I actually went to the coach at the next break and told him to have his guy watch it, that it was close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I didn't call anything.
So that's great that you actually had communication with the benches. I think that goes a long way in helping, if something were to come up in the future, that you had that dialogue there with the coaches. So that's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks.
Petey, what about the, the defensive players when a guy's standing in front of the net he pushes down on the breezers.
Oh,
I'm
you mean
not
a
saying
cross
it's a
check?
slew foot. Yeah, I mean, what do you call that? Cross check, or do you have anything
Yeah,
else? there?
cross check.
Just a cross check?
Yeah,
You think-
he's pantsing the guy. If you're using your stick and making a downward motion, that's not a slew foot. You're not throwing the
No,
guy back.
yeah, I did say it's a slew foot. I was just saying, what are the options there?
Oh yeah, I go cross check for that.
I
Like,
think
you're
if there's
gonna
a
pants-
blatant downward motion with the stick, yeah, I would go cross check. One, because it's more descriptive than interference or roughing, right? Like, I think we get in too much of a habit of just calling roughing. And it's true, it's roughing, but like if the elbow's up, call elbowing. If his stick's up, call cross checking. If it's you know what I mean? Like that. And then Sam, in your instance there, like if he's trying to trip somebody with his foot, call tripping. He doesn't have to fall to have a tripping. It's just intent. If he's intending to trip someone, just call the tripping. You can call a tripping there. Just put him in the box, right? And just so we're clear, if you do call slew footing, the minimum penalty for slew footing is a major and a game misconduct. So there's no minor, there's no 210. It's 5 in game for slew footing. So just so we're all on the same page with that as well. But yeah, if he tries to trip him, just because he doesn't fall, you can still go with a trip there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Sam, I have a question for you. From Reston, Virginia. What part of Virginia were you working?
I live in Alexandria. I'm actually, I got like 7 games this weekend between Bowie and Waldorf and Fort DuPont.
We just had a Bowie team out here for Grizz Cup, and
Awesome.
actually, that's my old neck of the woods was Delaware Valley, doing that whole area from PA down to Virginia.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting you when I'm back out here this summer.
I'll bring you up to Logan. You can work some games.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Logan.
I'm saying that without having any idea where Logan is. So.
It's closer
From
than
you,
Virginia,
it's
from Salt Lake.
probably an hour and 45 minutes. North. But
over a mountain.
And new officials, you take what you can get, right?
We have enough here, Sam, that you don't have to go up there.
He
Sorry,
knows.
Gerloff.
There's seven rinks within 20 miles of where Sam lives, so he's got plenty of options.
Nobody likes me. I get it.
I'll come to Logan. After
Gerloff, you just said you hired 8
weekend,
new
they probably
officials.
don't want me up there.
You said you just got 8 new officials, Gerloff.
Yeah, a level 1 doesn't work high school game.
Since when? They do here.
They do here too on occasion.
There's actually some high school games available this weekend if anybody's interested. Still not covered. Just kind of where we're at. But on that note, seriously, thanks everyone for hopping on. Appreciate everyone's time. I promise if we
Thanks for
can
making
just
it.
all band together and work as many games and try and get everything covered these next few months, it's going to be worth it. I promise. Things
Hell
are
yeah,
looking
go
up.
Team Zebras.
Positive. Hey, thanks, McPhee. You're late. But thanks again.
I was at skating lessons, Andy. It's my first time.
Yeah, right?
Hey, McPhee, since you're late, I've got a special punishment for you on Friday night.
Oh, geez.
So I've heard.
Safe sport, everyone. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next month. In the meantime, if you have any questions or issues or need any clarification on anything, I send you guys my phone number, I think, like 3 times a day. So feel free to reach out.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Andy.
Thanks, everybody.